what's up everyone? It's Maddie. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. Recently, Chapter 3 Season 2 of Fortnite released and Epic shocked everyone by removing building from the game. I thought it would be so much fun to host a 100-player scrim while there's currently no building in Fortnite. I'm super curious to see how this game plays out, and the winner is gonna get $50. With that being said, if you guys do end up buying the new Battle Pass this season, I'd really appreciate if you could help support me by using code Maddynf in the Fortnite item shop. And if you do end up enjoying this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here to my channel. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So as always, in these, these types of games, I immediately eliminate myself so that I can spectate and, commentate, cast you guys. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to land at tilted. I'm going to jump off the edge and I'm going to spectate you guys. Someone in here is level 351. No way. That's insane. I already see some pretty cracked people in here. Griffin, Joker Jack, I host custom games somewhat often, especially recently. I'm getting a little bit of end of season burnout. I've been hosting a lot of custom games and I recognize these names, and a lot of these guys are absolutely cracked. So I'm excited to see how this is going to be. All right, let's see. So I'm going to spectate. Let's just take a look around the map, see where everybody is choosing to land. So here we have actually my mod. Hey! My mod, my friend Zach, aka Mr. Sikiro, is over here. Let's see, he decided to land at the Punisher and Landjog spot, which is in the bottom left-hand corner at the windmills. This is where Zach is going, and so far he's looking, pretty good. He's got pump already, he's got his chug splashes. Another thing to keep in mind, which is interesting about this game now, is that everybody by default gets 50 extra shield. So I'm curious to see if that will have any, more effect on how these gunfights play out. Obviously, these gunfights are going to be pretty crazy already and very interesting to watch, considering they removed such, massive, I'd say the core part, the core mechanics of this game are no longer part of the game. So it's already going to be very, very interesting to watch. And this is just another thing that might have, another small effect on how these gunfights play out. So with that being said, let's go ahead and check out the next player. Zach is looking pretty good. He's probably going to get a lot of good loot here. So I'm curious to see how he ends up doing in this game. Next, we have literally my best friend, Cheeseburger. Of course, my first two people that I spectate are my friends. Cheese also looking pretty good. Looks like he's going, no shotgun. I don't know if that's by choice or if, he's just getting a little bit, wonky at RNG if he didn't get a shotgun, but he's got an AUG, he's got look like that's a thermal, I believe that's a thermal AR. He has an SMG, some minis, and some chug splashes. He's out here showing us the new mechanic that's in Fortnite. In case you guys didn't know, you can both super run, you have super speed now, and you can climb things. So in game, it's actually pretty crazy. In the regular game in Arena, we're seeing some really crazy builds. People are utilizing these new mechanics to do high ground retakes, and it's insane. So I'm curious to see again how these new mechanics will affect the gunfights, and if we're going to see some great use of these new mechanics, or if it's a little bit too early in the season if people aren't comfortable enough with the super speed and the climbing. So Cheeseburger also has a llama. He's going to be one that we need to watch out for because he's going to have some very, very good loot. And again, in a game where you can't build, rotation, positioning, weapons, mobility is going to triumph all, Here we have Ryan Strawberry. Looks like he's mid-zone, just kind of chilling a little bit. Not really actively looting, just scoping out the area. Doesn't have any extra heals, but does have some shockwaves. I think, honestly, if anybody landed at Jones's, they might have the upper hand in this game because I've noticed at Jones's, number one, you can buy Slurpfish, which having instant heals when you can't build is huge. You get cracked. Oh, copyrighted. You get cracked, you can just pop some Slurpfish real quick, and that's much easier than popping a big pot or a med kit out in the open. So not only can you buy Slurpfish at Jones's, you can actually buy shockwaves as well. For only 36 gold, you get 2 shockwaves. So I think players that have shockwaves are going to do really well in these games because number one, they can get out of sticky situations, bad positioning, etc. Number two, they can actually use them to deal damage to another player. They can launch them into zone, pull them closer. It just gives them, the upper hand in a gunfight over a player that doesn't have any mobility. So here we have Kalea actually has very good loot. We have the combat SMG, which in case you didn't know is absolutely insane this season. Does over 40 headshot damage, has a super fast fire rate, 32 mag size, which is larger than the Stinger. It's crazy, and I'm actually seeing a lot of players prefer this over the Stinger SMG. Yeah, nice skin combo as well, we should mention. Looks really good. I love it. But yeah, she's looking great. Literally has drum shotgun, might be the meta this season with no building. 6 shockwaves, some good heals. I think she's gonna be one to watch out for. Really good loadout. Next, we have again my friend Preston. Uh-oh, it seems to be one of the first gunfights that we are seeing this game, that we get to witness at least and spectate. But see here, Preston is showing us how having mobility can be so important. Unfortunately, he's not able to get away, but the mobility almost saved him from that bad situation. You know, when you get into bad positioning and you're getting lasered and you don't have the ability to build anymore, it's really important to have, you know, some type of mobility or some type of cover. You know, they did add that, the, you know, vehicle mod, the cow, what is it called? The cow crusher, I think, which you can throw on the ground. Not only does it break structures, but it also prevents players from building, which obviously isn't, you know, super important to note in this game mode, but it can provide some cover for you, you know? So if you're in a pickle, you're getting focused, you just pop that bad boy on the ground and you got some instant cover, which would actually save you during a gunfight. So Preston almost showed us how that mobility came in clutch, you know, saving him from that bad situation, but unfortunately he was just not able to get away in time. So we've got Trocheck here, again looking pretty good, has 6 chug splashes, which is definitely going to come in handy. Blue pump, blue SMG, purple AUG, looking pretty good. You know, don't really have to worry about farming mad, so I think we might see some players be more aggressive mid-game or just play very, very, very passive, you know, depending on the player. I think we're going to see either extreme, you know, rather than the middle ground where you're kind of, you know, looting, maybe taking some tags at people, just playing kind of in the middle there when it comes to aggression. I think we're going to see, as I mentioned, the extremes. So either players that are very aggressive or players that are very passive. And, you know, I don't know if we'll see a ton of that middle ground, but guess we are about to find out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next player. We have Johnny. Oh, see, this is where, you know, positioning is huge. So we had Johnny versus Busta in this situation, and Busta just had a much better position there, you know, sitting in the bush where Busta has a visual on the other player, but the player does not have visuals on Busta is huge. You know, when you're not able to build, you can't save yourself from having bad positioning. So right there, Busta was able to laser, you know, get the upper hand in that gunfight, and then it was pretty much free for him at that point. So he's looking pretty good. It's interesting. He's the only player that I've seen so far that's chosen to carry C4s. Everyone else, you know, is prioritizing mobility, heals, weapons, etc. I haven't seen anyone go for explosives, but you know, in an endgame situation where nobody can build, explosives might be clutch. I mean, imagine having a bunch of C4 thrown on top of you and you can't do anything. You know, I mean, I guess if you had mobility, you could escape, but other than that, like, you can't build to protect yourself. So having, you know, grenades or C4s, just any type of explosive could be really, really huge in these games here. So here we have Busta trading a couple tags with this player. Again, we're going to see this, you know, 50 shield just keep recharging, which I don't know if that'll have, you know, too much of an effect on the gunfights. But it looks like that's what we're witnessing right here. This player, you know, is having their shield recharge. So here we're seeing, again, Busta is taking the extreme approach, just being very, very aggressive. Oh! Looks like they nerfed the trees, only did 40 damage. And just like that, Busta is able to pick up the elimination on Nordy Poo, which is actually one of my really, really long-time viewers, long-time supporters. That's crazy. So Busta's getting up some big eliminations here. Let's see what else he's able to do in the rest of this game. Next up, we have Brian. Let's see, is over at Command Cavern. And, you know, I haven't played too much this season. It's only the second day of the new season, so I don't know how Command Cavern is. You know, it looks like they made a lot of changes to what used to be Covert. Okay, 1 crowned one. Let's go. Yeah, they made a lot of changes to Covert, and Covert used to be insane. You know, there's a mythic SMG, there was a vault with gold, with heals, with supply drops, with so much loot. It was absolutely insane. So I'm curious, I don't know if Command Cavern is as good as Covert used to be, but if that's the case, Brian's gonna be looking really good. You know, probably gonna have a lot of heals, a lot of, you know, loot, ammo. So let's go ahead and check out the next player. We've got Suga. Suga looking pretty good. Honestly, this might be a good strat, you know, to sit up on one of these blimps or whatever you'd like to call them. I don't know what the official term is for this vehicle, but it's just kind of chilling up here. Has pretty good loot, going for the thermal AR, which is, you know, going to be huge in these games where there's no building. A lot of players are resorting to, you know, playing a little bit more passively, you know, camping, going for positioning, sitting in vehicles, sitting in bushes. So having those thermal weapons, whether it's, you know, the thermal AR or the thermal fish, which provides you with, you know, just thermal vision, that's going to be huge. Could be very, very helpful, especially in these end games where, you know, people could be hiding anywhere and you got to find out where they're at. So Suga's looking pretty good. Gold pump, blue combat SMG, you can't complain. So it looks like we must have some super aggressive players in these games because we're already down to only 33 players, which, you know, typically in a competitive game, that's not very common. You know, occasionally we do have some players that are very aggressive and W keying and just wiping the lobbies, but typically you see a lot more players alive than this. But, you know, this might be a you know, result of having no building in the game. You know, players might get caught and aren't able to escape, and they just die a lot faster. It also might enable players that are a little bit more aggressive just absolutely wipe lobbies. You know, if they're confident with their gun skill and their movement and their mobility or usage of mobility items, they could really go crazy in these lobbies. And Griffin! I saw Griffin just died in the kill feed. Griffin was definitely one that you wanted to watch out for. He is cracked. So Kalea took out Griffin. Really, really interesting to see. Next up, we have Nick. Little ice cream, popping some heals here. So Nick, it looks like Nick went for the, again, thermal AR and the auto shotgun. Also picking up a gray Stinger SMG here, and we're seeing Nick is only the second player in this lobby to go for explosives. It seems like everyone else is prioritizing weapons, mobility, and heals over explosives. So I'm curious to see what pays off. You know, if a player that has 2 heals or 1 heal and mobility over explosives will come out on top, or if we see these explosives go crazy endgame. All right, let's see what Nick is able to do here. Doesn't have any mobility, so this rotation into zone could be tough, but he gets some major shots on this player ahead of him, and that's all you gotta do, you know, just like that. A 58 headshot picks up the elimination on Henson, but now this is where it could be difficult. You know, you can't build, so he's gonna have to hope that he does not get focused from his back, you know, because there's nowhere else to go. Without having any mobility, he could get in a really tough situation here. But with those shots, you know, he's able to pick up the elimination with ease, and he's looking okay right now. 58 headshot is absolutely insane. I see why a lot of these players are choosing to go for the thermal scoped AR. You know, you can't pass up that 58 headshot damage, especially when players are unable to build. You know, you catch them out in the open, and there's really nothing they can do. If you're hitting 58, 58, 58. Oh no, we have Joker Jack picks up the elimination on Nick, and now is gonna try to go for the elimination on the player in this vehicle. So something that I'm kind of worried about is all of the players that are caught on edge here. You know, I think if it were me, it's tough to say, but I might try to go for earlier rotation, you know, pick up a vehicle, use my, you know, shockwaves, whatever it is, to try to get in zone faster, because I think if you're caught on a late rotation and you're getting storm held, that is going to be so brutal. You know, it's already tough being storm held or getting lobby focus in a comp game when you're on edge of zone, but you do have, you know, the building mechanic. Oh no! Joker accidentally shot at the ice cream cone and is unable to build. This could be bad. This could be very bad. But anyways, when you're caught on edge, like in a regular game, you know, you're usually able to save yourself. Sometimes, you know, it could still be very bad, but having the building mechanic, you know, could save you sometimes from getting storm held or being lobby focused. But in these games with like late rotations, you could get punished severely for having too slow of a rotation. All right, so here is kind of like the first close quarters gunfight that we're seeing with no building. You know, every other gunfight has been kind of long range. But here we're seeing how these gunfights play out with no building in close quarters, which is also pretty interesting to see. So here, you know, Joker's taking a couple tags, which is totally okay, because that only damages the extra 50 shield that you get, which, again, in case you didn't know, recharges. I'm curious to see if anybody is going to go for the Cow Crasher. Is that what it's called? It's a vehicle mod. They introduced it this season, and number one, you can pop it onto a vehicle, and it just crashes through builds. It's insane. It runs everything over and can't be stopped. But also you can throw it on the ground to break builds or to provide some instant cover. So I'm curious to see if anybody is going to go for that vehicle mod in these games if they're trying to get some instant cover endgame. You know, I feel like something that's never really been discussed in Fortnite is very specific movements. You know, obviously good players have very good movement, but in Valorant, for example, so one skill is like counter strafing, you know, where you make it harder to hit you by strafing and then hitting like the opposite key, whether it's A or D, to stop in your place, be accurate when you shoot, and kind of, you know, make it more difficult for your opponent to hit their shots. I feel like we might see something similar like that in these games now, since there's no building in Fortnite. You know, I'm curious to see what little movements we'll see from good players that will make it more difficult for their opponent to hit them. You know, I think that's something that hasn't really been discussed much in Fortnite. Obviously, again, to reiterate, good players have good movement, which is pretty obvious. But no one really talks about those little like micro movements, if you want to call it that, you know? And Joker Jack is able to pick up another elimination on Tony. And another on Assault Ella. Rip. Joker Jack is just running through these players. Again, there's not really too much you can do if you're low health. You know, when you can't build, it's going to make it tough to win these fights. You know, you're just at a massive disadvantage. it's hard to out-aim a player when, you know, you can't compensate for the low health with building and editing. All right, so with that being said, there's only 11 players remaining. Let's check out who else is in this lobby. So we have Sin. Sin is actually a comp player, in case you guys didn't know. He is absolutely insane. So here is where we're seeing, you know, the first player that's using this Cow Crasher mobility item, or not mobility items, or the vehicle attachment, vehicle mod. So I was curious to see if anyone would use them, whether, you know, they would put it on the vehicle or whether they'd carry it in their inventory to throw down on the ground. And here we're seeing Sin is the first player to use it in this game. So I don't want to give away Sin's positioning. So let's go ahead and move on to Maj. See, this is where you can see where some players that might have some really cracked gun skill can survive to endgame, because, you know, all love, Maj is a friend of mine and my mod. He's a pretty casual Fortnite player. You know, he's not really a big builder, editor. He doesn't really utilize those mechanics in the game. So this is where we could see players like that thrive. You know, he has pretty good gun skill. Is that his NPC or something? Maj, are you gonna shoot at that player? Hello? Maj, please do not team. I don't know if that's teaming or if that was an NPC, but it's okay, because he's gonna die either way. Just saying. Don't feel bad if Maj is teaming. Don't feel bad about it, because there's no way he's killing multiple players in this game. All right, so here we've got Anonymous, has fireflies, which is interesting. Again, I'm curious to see like how these explosive items will play in endgame. You know, I was a little bit thrown off by the Maj cheating situation. All right, do we still, is Sin dead? No way! So I don't know who eliminated Sin, but looks like Sin is out of the game. We have 5 players remaining. Let's see, we have Anonymous in a car here with only 66 HP, you know, just a couple shots to this vehicle. And it's gone, you know, and that could be a lot of damage. Also the fire damage, which is going to be very difficult to escape if you're unable to build. So here we have Anonymous, only 1 shockwave remaining, is unable to get some cover here, gets their shield knocked off, and is kind of just looking for, and you know, any opportunity to get away from these shots, but unfortunately is unable to escape. So Brian finally eliminates Maj, and here we're seeing the 1v1 situation. So Brian, it's looking a little bit rough for him. You know, he has only 6 minis, no cover. You know, this is where that Cow Crasher could absolutely come in clutch. You know, if you're in an open area like this with no building, you need that instant cover. So if you don't have a vehicle, if you don't have shockwaves, you really need something to pop on the ground to provide you some cover. So Brian is going for the shots, but unfortunately is unable to pick up the elimination. And we see Slimy Llama coming out on top with still 6 minis and 2 big pots remaining, as well as the 2 shockwaves. And that's where I say, you know, in these games, having those instant heals is huge, you know, because I'm assuming Slimy probably didn't even have the opportunity to pop those heals because of how those gunfights play out. You know, it's like if you're just hiding behind a tree and like your arm is still showing, you don't really have 5 seconds to pop a big pot. You know, so that's where we see players that have chug splashes, have floppers, have slurpfish. That is when those really, really, you know, come in clutch. When you're able, you know, you only have 1 second, you can pop 2 slurpfish, you know, and get 80 HP is perfect. So it looks like Slimy was able to utilize those shockwaves in the end game, which gave him that upper hand and allowed him to pick up the elimination and get the win. So GG Slimy, you're gonna get $50 on PayPal. Congrats, you did great. That was really, really entertaining to watch. I was thrown off a little bit because Maj and Brian were teaming. Oh my gosh, I literally, my 2 friends and my mods, I scroll and they're just sitting right next to each other. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Hello, what the heck?